of just the legitimacy of a government. And, you know, in the first Iraqi war, when Bush was loath to go into Iraq because he was fearful of creating a political vacuum. But unfortunately, with the intervention that occurred with Bush II, you know, the assumption was we can simply replace a government. But replacing a government is obviously, as we all see, is almost impossible. And one of the things about, you know, if you look, the classical worldview in the Muslim world was much more akin to a Hobbesian worldview. That, you know, you have a government and you should maintain the stability of a government. And so scholars, we had, the revolutionary period of Islam was in a very early period. But quickly after that, because of the devastation that these revolutions caused, Muslim scholars basically said that we should obey the ruler. And this was the idea. And this was maintained for a long period of time. And one of the reasons why Muslims were so patient with a lot of the tyrannies in the Muslim world was because of this ideology. We've moved into a Lockean period now. This idea that people have a right to rebel against governments when they're not actually doing what they're, you know, what they're instituted to do, which is first and foremost to protect the population, and also to provide those amenities that enable people to live well. So this is a crisis that we have now, and I don't see it going away anytime soon. And obviously the incredible technological changes that have occurred, which have also added to the instability, the fact that we're dealing with new technologies that enable people to communicate in ways that they've historically never been able to communicate with. And finally, that individuals have the power now to do things that armies had the powers to do in the past. One of the things that Brzezinski said recently, which to me was very interesting, he said in the past, you could, it was easier to control 1 million people than to kill 1 million people. Today, it's easier to kill 1 million people than to control 1 million people. And for me, that's something that we really have to think about, that one individual, if you look at the beginning of World War I, one individual, Gabrielo Princip, who was a Serbian nationalist, 19 years old, and basically he did an act that within a month, Europe was in a devastating war. And this is where we all should be deeply concerned about the instability in this region, where a conflagration could easily erupt because of dirty bombs getting in the hands of these people, something like this. So we're in a very, very serious situation. And Islam, unfortunately, has a militant tradition in the same sense, the samurai, you know, all of these ancient, the chivalry of the Middle Ages, that there's a romantic view of violence in the Islamic tradition. And the great heroes of Islam were great military leaders, like Salahuddin al-Ayyubi. They were warriors, but they were chivalrous warriors. Salahuddin was honored in the West, and but now you're dealing with a perversion of that chivalrous, you know. Frost talks about trying to end the wars. He wrote a poem about the League of Nations, and in that he said, these men trying to end war, he said, they're blessed with the acumen to suspect the human trait was not the basest human that made them militate. There's something very noble about courage and the warrior and defending the weak, and so this is the mythology that has been created around this, which is very problematic.